Hello, my name is Frank Arjava Petter. I'm originally from Germany. I live in Greece, and I came to Buenos Aires to educate the public here about Reiki. I got involved in Reiki about 23 years ago through my brother, who was a Reiki teacher at the time in Germany, and I was living in Japan at the time, okay? And I went to Germany from Japan to learn Reiki from my brother, and then found out that Reiki was or is a Japanese healing method, and I re-imported it into Japan. I moved to Japan in 1989 and stayed there for about 12 years. It was a very important part of my life, because this is where, while being there, I got in contact with Reiki and then began teaching it there, and it turned out that I was the person who reintroduced Reiki to the Japanese. Then, after several years, after 7 years of doing that, I was introduced to somebody Japanese who was teaching Reiki for 65 years, and then I took her teaching out of Japan, and that's what I'm doing here.
Wow.
Yeah, so I brought it there, I re-imported it, and then brought back a different teaching to the West. The difference is that what I had originally learned was a Reiki that had developed in the West, so was full of, let's say, New Age concepts and New Age spirituality, things from India, things from China. It was kind of a hodgepodge, nice, but didn't suit me really, because I was living in Japan, I was married to a Japanese, I speak the language well, and I always thought something is not quite right. Huh? It's all mixed up, until I found Chiyoko Yamaguchi, my teacher, who taught me the original teaching that didn't have any of these New Age things mixed into it, and I enjoy that very much. It's simple, straightforward Japanese spirituality, just beautiful. Basically, as I said, it's built-in, our built-in knowledge. It means everybody can learn it, but you have to go to a teacher who can show you what you already have. I live in Greece, on a Greek island, and there everything is ancient. Yeah? There has been civilization there for 5,000 years. So everywhere you dig, you might find a treasure. Yeah? But if you don't know where the treasure is, you can't just dig everywhere. And Reiki is just like that. Yeah? You have the treasure buried inside, and you need somebody to show you where it is. It changed my life in many ways. Yeah? In many, many ways. One is, when you learn Reiki, you can treat yourself and those around you, your family, your friends. So I started doing that when I was in my 30s, now I'm in my mid-50s. So that has made a considerable change. You don't need to go for every little thing to the doctor. I'm not against going to the doctor, but for many things you can handle it yourself. Then I have a family, I have 2 small children, age 7 and 11. And they, as you can imagine, hurt themselves all the time. They have fevers, they have stomach aches, and most of the issues, the health issues that come up, we can deal with at home, and it's just really pleasant. It also increases the intimacy in the family. Yeah? So it's an amazing thing that I use literally every day of my life. Of course, it depends on the culture of the country that Reiki comes to. Yeah? So in some countries, like in Latin America, actually people use it in a good way, yeah? Because medical insurance and the health system is not so good, so people use that to help themselves, and that's actually what it is for. In other countries where maybe the health system is really sophisticated, yeah, people tend to use it for different reasons, maybe more for self-development or something like that. So it's all different. Yeah? In India, where you have a great history of student, guru, master, disciple relationship, yeah, people tend to use it in that way. Yeah? They want to get into the limelight of the spiritual scene, then they become the great master. So you find somebody who can teach you. Yeah, and the internet is a great resource for that. You can ask Mr. or Mrs. Google to find a Reiki teacher near you, and then I suggest that you go and visit that person and see if you fit with that person, if you think that this is somebody who can teach you something. So how do I know if I find somebody that can teach me something? How do I know that? I follow my gut feeling. I look at them and I think, is this guy really happy? Yeah, because in Reiki we say Reiki is the secret art of happiness. Yeah, so is he really happy? If he is not, what can he teach me? If the teaching hasn't brought result in his life, then yeah, then maybe I go somewhere else. Yeah? So you trust your intuition or your inner voice when you meet somebody. I think we make our lives too complicated and we create our own suffering. And actually being happy needs no effort at all, and suffering needs a lot of energy. So we waste our energy creating our own suffering most of the time. Yeah? So being happy is human nature. How can you find happiness? It's nothing that you have to look for. It's there all the time. It's in your heart. You just have to grab it and run. We hear these stories all the time, yeah? And they are stories of personal transformation, they are stories of somebody being very ill, becoming healthy, somebody having accidents, healing very quickly. They're not miracle stories, but they're stories of Reiki in practice. I will tell you a few if you like. Yeah?
Yeah, please.
So a couple of years ago we were here in Buenos Aires, actually in the same building, and somebody told us that a client of theirs had had an accident, was a small child whose brain hemispheres had, due to trauma, impact, had separated. And we did Reiki on this child, and within 2-3 hours it came together again, and he came out of the coma.
Wow.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, what happens sometimes. We can't explain it. At that point we did group Reiki, and if you have a difficulty understanding how that could possibly work, it's in a way similar to prayer.
Yes.
Yeah? And we know that if many people pray for one person, it has a really good effect. Basically, we don't have standards, worldwide standards, what it takes to learn the first level of Reiki, the second level of Reiki, and then becoming a teacher. So every school has their own regulations. Some teach it very rapidly, very quickly, and others take more time. In the way that I teach, we usually have 6 months to 1 year between the different levels in which the practitioner is required to work. Yeah? And this work is documented and checked by our institute. So somebody who has a lot of experience working with people, giving treatments to people, can then advance to become a Reiki teacher. And essentially it's like that. In Reiki there are 3 degrees. The first 2 are the student degrees, and the third one is the teacher degree. So in level 1 and level 2 it's the responsibility of the student to learn to work with people, to learn how to watch the healing process of the client, how to watch the clients get well, and then after they have, well, I wouldn't say mastered that, because you cannot master that, but after they understand the basic dynamics of how that works, they may become a teacher. And when you're a teacher, a Reiki teacher, you're responsible for your students. The last one is called This is Reiki in English, and the idea for that was born after realizing that I would like to do one book in which I put everything that I know, and this is what I did. There, yeah. So the first books are, let's say, time documents. They developed as our knowledge of Reiki history and Reiki practice developed. So they're like little photographs of Reiki development, and the last book is like a whole puzzle of many pictures put together. So what I would like to see is Reiki to go into hospitals and all healthcare places. I would love to see nurses and doctors practice Reiki, not because I'm against Western medical science, I'm totally for it, it's a beautiful thing, but we want to learn to treat the whole human being, and use all the avenues of healing that we possibly can. Then I would love to see Reiki in new, small, young families, where the kids are treated and grow up with natural healing. This is my future vision for Reiki. Quite simple. One of the things that we like to do from our institute is we'll start an NGO to do projects in places where people need help, social projects and things like that. That's my personal future idea for me that I would like to work on. I love to help people, and this is what we do. Thank you very much.